Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast that's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. I'm a former fourth-string college quarterback and mediocre middle relief pitcher who earned himself a film and media studies degree. Now I'm a single dad who loves to talk Mets baseball, Giants football, movies, and television. And sometimes I like to mix in some funny life lessons and life stories along the way. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the biggest stories from the dog days of Augusto for the New York Metropolitans. Calling up Nolan McLean, who rewarded the team for that decision by setting a record, becoming the first pitcher in Mets history to do something really cool. Pete Alonso passed Darryl Strawberry to become the franchise's all-time home runs leader. So we'll take a look at Polar Bear's most memorable home runs. There's also been some talk about the MLB expansion that's coming down the line and what the realignment, the possible realignment might look like. Juan Soto is back in the New York groove. And we'll also talk about Jonah, Tong getting called up. You know, we had the kids from 2 years ago, Beatty, Vientos, Alvarez, Mauricio, position player edition. Now we have the kids pitcher edition, making an impact at the professional Major League Baseball big show level. So without further ado, let's get it started up here. All right, last episode that I talked to you was early August. The trade deadline had just come and gone. Mets had one of the biggest hauls, if not the biggest trade haul from the trade deadline, not having to deal a ton of prospects to secure a center fielder in Cedric Mullins from the Baltimore Orioles, Ryan Helsley, a closer from the Cardinals, Tyler Rogers, a submariner, middle relief pitcher from Los Gigantes de San Francisco, and Gregory Soto, also from the Obes. Early returns were okay, not really great since then. Helsley stinks. He's been just god-awful. Cedric Mullins has been possibly even worse. Tyler Rogers has been good to great. And Gregory Soto's like, I don't know, middle of the line. Pretty good, pretty decent. So, thank God that Jose Siri, he's now back in the lineup after being out rehabbing from what did not appear to be that serious an injury when it first occurred back in April. It was like the first road trip. They were playing in Sacramento, Sacktown, and he took a foul ball off the knee. No one really thought much of it, and then he had to get carried out of the stadium in a circus of errors because that stadium is just not equipped for modern day baseball. And he just came back, thank God, because I think people had pretty much been fed up with Cedric Mullins. Tyrone Taylor had been pushed aside in center field, and he must have been like, you guys are sitting me for this? And then Tyrone got hurt, so it's good to have Siri back. But all in all, Cedric Mullins, oh boy, not great. We were 11-17 in the month of August. We scored 177 runs in 28 games. 177 runs. It was the most, I think it's the most runs that the Mets have scored in a calendar month in franchise history. And we went 11-17. So we won it like a less than a 400 clip. Not great. It's hard to believe that we had the best record in baseball at 45-24 in mid-June, and then June 13th happened and all hell broke loose. This has been one of the worst, if not the worst, 2-month stretch of baseball, Mets baseball in franchise history, and yet somehow we're still have a position. If the season ended today, we're still in the playoffs, which is just, I don't think I've ever encountered a season like this where it's like multiple very long skids and slumps where we just look awful, and yet we're still a playoff team. It just goes to show how amazing a fucking start we had in April, May, and halfway through June. At the beginning of August, when the calendar flipped to Agosto, we were 17-23 since June 13. We then decided to go 2-11. We lost 14 of 16. We had like the tie for the third lowest win percentage in all of baseball. We had 19 blown lead losses at one point, which was the most in all of Major League Baseball. Our starters had produced the fewest total innings in Major League Baseball, and our bullpen totaled the second most innings in the majors. David Peterson was at that point during August when this graphic popped up on the old boob tube. David Peterson was averaging 5.7 innings pitched per start, while the rest of the rotation 4 2/3. Yikes. I mean, has there ever been such a polarizing shift, monumental seismic sea change of a shift in terms of we had like the best rotation and bullpen in baseball for the first month or so to now we're amongst the worst. So no Mets team so if we look at the 2019 Washington Nationals, they had a 19-31 stretch, but rebounded to win the World Series, which is a rare feat. We've brought them up in the past whenever I've been trying to like get some motivation and some hope going for, when we're on the outside looking in terms of a postseason spot. No Mets team with a similar or worse 53-game stretch has made a serious playoff run. And this type of downturn is notable, but not without precedent for the franchise. So that's what it's historic. It's a historic season. The fact that we are currently hold the last wild card spot, and we've had almost more than 50 games where it's just been god awful. I don't know that you can point to another Mets season like that. I can't remember it. Mets have used more than 43 pitchers this season, which is a franchise record, and it's just a couple away from the Major League Baseball record. I assume that they're probably gonna top that list by the time this season's over. So judging by the fact that we now brought up Sproat, and they might have to bring up some other guys just because no one's effective at this point other than McLean. We designated Paul Blackburn for assignment to make room for Nolan McLean. He was pretty pissed about that. 3-14 in the last 17, blew leads in 7 of the last 8 games. Before that August 17th game versus the Mariners, they had their first back-to-back wins and first win since late July during that Mariners series. But at the beginning of the month, August 1st, the Mets against left-handed pitching in the 2025 season were hitting .226 with a .303 on-base percentage and a .659 OPS. And this was the appeal of Cedric Mullins in dealing for him, is that against left-handed pitching, he struggled for the past, 2, 3, 4 seasons. It seems like, his last good season was 2021, I think. But Cedric Mullins was hitting .298 with a .390 on-base percentage and an .866 OPS against left-handed pitching. So that was the appeal there. And he's they put up his numbers the other day, and he's like under 200 batting average, and I think his OPS is under 500. Definitely under 600. It might be under 500 now. So safe to say that move didn't pay off. Welcome back, Jose Siri. Kyle Gelling from We Gotta Believe and Barstool Sports. He had the same thought I did on August 1st when Ryan Helsley came to the game to the tune of Hell's Bells. We all both said, hell yeah, Helsley. And he's just been atrocious. Can't locate his slider. Fastball is getting mashed. The assumption there is that even though he's touching 101, going north of the triple digits, that there's not a whole lot of movement on it, and he's coming over the top, so it's pretty easy to track. And you can get your barrel on it if you're quick enough. And there was also indications that he's tipping his pitches, which is fantastic when you're in the midst of a playoff run. So Matthew Brownstein on X said that Pete Alonso is now 4th in Mets franchise history in terms of most extra base hits. That was at the beginning of the month. I know that he leads the National League in doubles, so we are not seeing a regression from Pete Alonso. If anything, he's taken a step forward, and I don't think he's ever going to catch David Wright, though. David Wright has 658 extra base hits. The next number 2 is Reyes with just under 500, and then you have Strawberry at 469. So he'll probably be able to catch Strawberry, and probably Reyes as well, but I don't know that he'll ever catch David Wright. Damn, homie. So we kick off August by losing 2 of 3 to the Giants at home, which is uncharacteristic for this ball club. We have a much, much better record at home than we do away. I think we're winning like right around 4. We have like a less than a 400 winning percentage on the road, something like that. Pretty nasty. That's not great to see. The Giants were at that point kind of, I believe they were hobbled coming into that early August series, and they have gone on a friggin' tear of late and are now within 4 games they're 4 games back of us for that last wild card spot. The silver lining there is that we own the series advantage 4-2 over them, so the tiebreaker goes to us. Unfortunately, we do not own the tiebreaker against the Reds. So if we ended up the season tied with the Reds get the spot, and we're just left with our friggin' dick in our hands being like, what the hell happened this season? Everyone's just waiting for things to click, apparently. Yeah, Frankie Montas got shelled in that game 3, the rubber match of that 3-game set against the Giants at home. He eventually ended up getting relegated to the bullpen, and then he had some kind of elbow injury and is dunzo for the season. Not great. Missed a ton of time at the beginning of the season rehabbing, and then came back and was just, and I remember seeing his statistics. They would put up his statistics from his rehab starts, and I'm like, are we sure that he's ready? Are we sure that we want to do this? But I think it was a move that was more out of desperation than anything else. It wasn't like, well, no, he's not ready, but we don't have anyone else to go. So maybe he came back a little bit too early. I don't know. But we have him for another year or 2, I think. Maybe another year. Maybe he'll bounce back next year. I don't know. Then we had a 3-game set against the Guardians from Cleveland and swept. Lost 7-6 and 10 at home. 3-2 was the next loss, and 4-1 was the final loss. So, again, Ryan Helsley blows. I don't think this necessarily really impacts, our standing within the National League. It's an American League team, so it's not that big a deal. Guardians are fighting for their playoff lives, so that makes sense that they would come out raring to go. But not a great start to August, and so that prompted the Metros to call up their number 3 prospect in the organization. This is number 64 overall. I think he was number 37 overall, according to MLB. So he's in that range, top 100 prospects in all baseball. Since moving to AAA, McLean holds a 2.81 ERA over 14 starts. The key is his sweeper, a chameleon of a pitch that manipulates in various ways. He attacks hitters with that offering, plus 3 fastball variations, which is he's a pitcher after my own heart. I love. If you want to get super technical, I threw like probably 12 different pitches. I just fucked around and experimented with all kinds of grips and all kinds of arm angles because I knew I couldn't blow anyone away. And the only way that I felt confident in tricking or fooling a hitter was to switch up the arm angles and to just come at you with all kinds of weird stuff. So the fact that he has 3 fastball variations is great. A 4-seamer that rides across the strike zone, a 2-seamer that dives, and a cutter that come in on the corner. He also mixes in a curveball and a changeup. That's pretty friggin' toit. A lot of other fun facts and tidbits about him. So we lose 2 of 3. We got swept by the Brewers. The Brewers, oh boy, the Brew Crew are just leaving no doubt. They went on like a 51-13 run at one point. So they are just on fire. And this is where we lost a lot of ground in the division. I mean, we started off the month, we were actually in first on August 2nd, up half a game over the Phillies. And then from that point, from August 2nd to, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's not looking much better now. We're down 9. I'm recording this on September 9th. We're down 9-2 to the Phillies. We lost 1-0 to them before. We're like 8 or 9 back from them. So I know a lot of people are talking about, well, let's turn the tables. Let's pull a 2007 and 2008 on them, where they're up by 8 with 18 to go, and so now we're gonna flip it on them. And it's like, it does not look like that. I do not think that's gonna happen. So yeah, I get swept by the Brew Crew. Jake Brown said on X, the Mets have really become insufferable to watch. It's hit the point you need to take nights away from watching for the sake of your sanity and mental health. Yes, mental health is important. Self-care is very important. And you cannot let the Mets mess that up, And, of course, we cap off the 3-game sweep, getting swept in 3 games with a 7-6 walk-off, courtesy of Edwin Diaz. This was in Milwaukee, which is basically like Atlanta's a house of horrors, and Milwaukee's not far behind. It's kind of like a villa of horrors. And I think it might have to do with that friggin' haunted hotel that they got going on there up in Milwaukee. Rich McLeod on X said, we've reached the inevitable point of every Mets season where the positive fans are mad at the negative fans are mad at the positive fans, and everyone's mad at the team. A tradition unlike any other. Well said, Rich. Well said. Someone else posted, and I apologize for not citing this, but it's a meme, so it's probably been through the ringer. It's a graphic with the text, life as a Mets fan at the top. Life as a Mets fan at the top. And then it's just a triangle with arrows going around the Mets logo. At the top point, it says, I get my hopes up. Bottom right, it says, I get disappointed. Go over to the bottom left, it says, I start to believe again. Get your hopes up, get disappointed, start to believe again, get your hopes up. That's life as a Mets fan. So, and then since the All-Star break at the August 11th, so about a month, the Mets are 8-13, which are like, could be worse. And it's like, well, they also lost 12 of the last 13. So in that 21 game stretch, the last 13 of those 21, we've lost 12 and only won 1. So after leading the National League East by as many as 5.5 games on June 12th, they're now 5.5 games back in the NL East at that point. 1.5 games from dropping out of the last NL wild card spot, 7-game losing streak. So pretty bleak at that point, and it's getting to that point again now here on September 9th when we're about to drop another game in this 4-game set at Philly against the Phillies. August 12th, we bounced back with a vengeance, winning 13-5. Gregory Soto got the dub. Hageman got the save. This was also the game where Polar Bear, Big Pete Meat, Peter Morgan Alonso, passed Darryl Strawberry to become the Mets. Oh, no, sorry. This is where he tied Darryl Strawberry. No, this is where he passed him. Come on, Neal. You can do this. I think August 12th was when he passed Darryl Strawberry to become the Mets' all-time franchise leader in home runs. Career home run number 253. He also went on to hit 254 in that game, I believe. Alonso, Ryan at Plaid Dinosaur, change it, posted on X, quote, Alonso set the rookie home run record against the same team, same inning, in the same inning, and very close to the same spot, and it also has the same final 2 digits. So he hit his 53rd home run in his rookie season, a record, and then this was 253 again against the Bravos. So if you're into that sort of thing. Darryl Strawberry's Mets record of 252 home runs is the 3rd smallest of any active Major League franchise. The only teams with lower franchise marks are the D-backs and the Padres. Of course, the D-backs just became a franchise in 93? 98. One of those two. I think it was 93. And the franchise leader in home runs for the Diamondbacks is Luis Gonzalez with 224. Ketel Marte needs to go deep about 60 more times to match Gonzalez out in Arizona. So it seems doable if he sticks around there. And then Manny Machado's 13 home runs away. Now, this was back in early to mid-August, so he is probably getting there if he's not there already. So the Padres will they'll be the final major league team to have a 200 home run hitter, which is kind of bonkers to think about, considering all the home run hitters that they've had over the years. I mean, just off the top of my head, Ken Caminiti. I guess their most prolific hitter was Tony Gwynn, and he wasn't much of he wasn't a prolific home run hitter. He was the most prolific hitter, hitting for average. So I don't know that he hit a ton of home runs. So I guess that makes sense. And their other one was Steve Garvey, and he was a second baseman. I don't think he was big on home runs. Dave Winfield played there for a while, so he must be on the list. And then you have the Tampa Bay Rays. Their all-time franchise home run leader is Evan Longoria at 261. The Marlins are next with Giancarlo Stanton, a.k.a. Mike Stanton, at 267. The Nationals franchise leader is Ryan Zimmerman with 284. George Brett and the Royals has 317 home runs, but Salvador Perez is hot on his tail with 290. He had 294 as of August 12th. Carlos Delgado has the record for the Blue Jays at 336. Jose Ramirez is about 50 home runs away from tying Jim Thome's 337 in Cleveland. This one kind of caught me off guard. I didn't realize this, and maybe I just needed, a lobotomy. The Brewers, all-time home run leader. Take a guess who it is. I mean, you probably got it right. I would never have gotten it right. Ryan Braun with 352. It's a lot of fucking ding-dongs, dude. I mean, I think about, the kind of numbers that Pete has put up in, how many years has he been with us? It's 6 years now? 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 7 years. And it's not 7 full seasons because he had the COVID season that was only 60 games, so he's missing 100 games. So if you figure in those 100 games, he would probably hit minimum 20. And he's probably, we're hoping that he has another 7 in him. That would be cool. I know he's, 30? So he'd be 37. I think he could pull it off. Move him to DH, even though he's not going to be happy about it. Next up is the A's. Mark McGwire is the home run leader for the A's, 363. That makes sense. The Rockies. This one also caught me a little bit off guard because I didn't really view him as a big-time home run hitter, but he had such a long career, and it was all with one team, so I guess that makes sense. Todd Helton with 369 for Colorado. The Texas Rangers, you can probably guess, but you might have another guess that you in the chamber. Juan Gonzalez with 372 is the all-time franchise leader in home runs for the Texas Rangers. Johnny Bench is the all-time home run leader for the Reds at 389. Ken Griffey Jr. owns the Mariners home run franchise total record at 417. Cal Ripken Jr. for the Orioles at 431. The Big Hurt, Frank Thomas, Nugenics spokesman, 448 for Chicago Southside. Jeff Bagwell, 449 ding-dongs for the Astros over the course of his career. Quite impressive. Willie Stargell had 475 taters for the Pittsburgh Pirates. This one also caught me off guard. I don't know, color me dumb. I guess I'm not as big a baseball history buff as I thought I was. Would you have guessed, who's the Red Sox all-time home run franchise leader? Franchise leader in total home runs for the Boston Red Sox. I'm waiting. Feel free to chime in. You got to press the buzzer. Nope. All right, we'll get tech support over. Ted Williams, 521 home runs. When I think of Ted Williams, I just don't think home runs. I think batting average. So that kind of threw me for a loop-de-loop. Next up, you know who it is. Sammy Sosa with the Chicago Cubs, 545 home runs for the Cubbies. The Phillies, all-time home run leader. Now, if you're a youngin', you might be like, oh, Ryan Howard. It's Mike Schmidt. And goddamn, he has had a ton. 548 home runs for the Phillies. Next up is Minnesota Twins. Now, you got to be an old head, I think, to get this one. You got to be an old head. I'm 44. You got to be older than that, I think. Twins all-time franchise home run leader, Harmon Killebrew with 559, dude. Whew. Yankees, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Babe Ruth with 659. The San Francisco/New York Giants, Willie Mays with 646. And then number one with a bullet, all-time, in your hearts, in your souls, and in the history books across all of Major League Baseball, but specifically for the Atlanta Braves, Hank Aaron, 733 home runs in a Braves uniform, most by any player for one team, most by any player in all of Major League Baseball history. So Pete's got a while to go to catch up. You know, he was kind of a late bloomer. You know, I don't think he made it into the majors until he was like 20. Why do I feel like he started a little bit later? I think he started when he was like, let's see here. So he was 24 when he entered. I was going to say 24. And he's 30. So he's got, now he's at 259 home runs, right? Because this is September 9th. If he gives another 7 years, do you think he could still hit at that clip? You know, he's averaging 42 per season. You figure that'll drop conservatively 5% each year. I don't think 10% feels large. So another 7 years, do you think he could hit another 259? Another 200 possibly? We'll see. But kudos to Pete. You know, there was a nice message from Darryl chiming in, giving in his blessing and congratulating Peter. And I thought that was a great move by Darryl. And we lost. So things are not looking great for the Metros. So I thought I'd take a look at Pete Alonso's most memorable home runs. This is a list that I tried to access on The Athletic, and they're like, you have to pay. And I'm like, all right, I'll just go to MLB.com for free and check out Anthony DeComo's. I think it was Anthony DeComo put together the list. But Pete Alonso's most memorable home runs. Number one, the one that got it started, the one that made us sit up and take notice. April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2019. In spring training, they were like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. We'll see what you got. Odds are probably not making the opening day roster, but we'll see what you got. We'll entertain you. We'll patronize you. And then he ended up hitting 352 with 4 home runs in that spring training. And so they gave him a spot on the roster. Before that first home run, he collected 6 hits over his first 3 big league games before going deep in Game 4 of the season against the Marlins. He was also entered into the home run derby that year. Hit 23 home runs to power pass Vlad Guerrero Jr. in the finals, becoming the second rookie to win the event and the first Met to win it outright. That was, and I know a lot of, Mets fans, Mets organization, we catch a lot of shit for being a circus. And the fact that I got excited about him winning the Derby at age 38, when I had just started this podcast, some would say is sad, pathetic, loser type shit. But I don't, long hair, I don't care, dude. I liked it a lot. I was pumped. I was excited. He was excited. He took home $1 million in prize money for his win, which is more than he earned in his career at that point, which is wild, considering I think he's earning, $30 mil a year now? And he donated a portion of that to charity, which is, Pete's a good guy. Good guy, Pete. His 31st home run came on July 17, 2019. This was the longest home run of Alonso's career. 489 feet. Hit the third deck at Minnesota's Target Field. I think I remember watching that live and being like, hot damn, this dude is a beast. To this day, it's one of the 20 longest home runs in the StatCast era. The longest by far by a Met, and the longest by an opponent in Target Field history. Damn. Would I say it's reminiscent of McGwire's home run in the Kingdom off Randy Johnson? I think it was off Randy Johnson. So McGwire was with, no, that can't be right. McGwire's was he with the A's? Because that interleague play wasn't a thing back then, was it? It couldn't have been Cardinals Mariners. It must have been A's Mariners. Anyway, I think it was Johnson versus McGuire. McGuire went like 525 yards, 525 feet in the Kingdom. That was a shot, and this reminiscent of that. I mean, Pete was short by a good 35 feet, but still, it was, similar. 42nd home run was also memorable. Came on August 27, 2019. The Mets' single-season franchise record was 41 home runs by Todd Hundley and also Carlos Beltran. Stood for 23 years before Alonso took aim at it. By August, it was clear that Alonso was going to smash that record. He finally did so when an opposite field solo shot against the Cubbies. With that one in the books, Alonso became the first rookie in more than 75 years to claim his franchise's single-season record. It was like, that 2019 season was momentous. Looking back on that season, it was like, that's when the tides turned. It was like, it just felt like, all right, we had 2 seasons where it was just like, oh, fuck, what happened? It was just like we were in the World Series, made the playoffs, and then the wheels fell off. And now it seems like we're kind of getting some momentum back and, riding the coattails of Pete into the national spotlight again. It's like there was a reason to turn on the TV in September when, as a Mets fan, it's like that's usually when it's like, fantasy football, Jets and Giants. Number 53 was also a very special one. It was September 28th, 2019, the final weekend of the 2019 season. Alonso needed 1 home run to match Aaron Judge's MLB rookie record and 2 to pass him. He hit the first of them on a Friday evening against the Bravos, and then a night later bashed the other off Mike Foltynewicz to set the rookie record. In the postgame clubhouse, Alonso was, quote, overcome with emotion as he discussed his feat. Yeah, man. Dude, franchise been around for 60 some odd years. You come along year 1 and you have the franchise record and the rookie record, dude. Something special. Number 61 came on September 3rd, 2020, and that's because of the COVID-shortened season when I think the season started in August. Was it July or August that season started? It was a 60-game season, and they only played against other AL East, NL East teams. And that to me, it's like having seen what the team was able to do in 2019 and the magic of the 2019 season, because there was a stretch where it was like, oh, same old Mets. But then it's like August came around and was like they were kind of pushing and they went on a run and it was like they were threatening. And it was like, all right, let's just take that positive momentum into the 2020 season. And then it's like COVID. And they just could not figure it out. September 3rd, 2020. So this was home run number 61 of his career. This is the first walk-off home run of Alonso's career. It took place with no fans in the stands. So brutal. Still memorable in large part because it came against the Yankees after the Mets scraped across 2 runs in the 8th and 1 in the 9th. Forced extras at Citi Field. Alonso led off the 10th with a walk-off 2-run ding dong. Wild that you can hit 53 home runs in your rookie season and none of those were walk-offs. How is that possible? I'll tell you how it's possible, because their offense, not great. July 13th, 2021. This was Alonso's second Derby win. May have been more impressive than his first. He had 35 home runs in the first round of the event, 4 total home runs of at least 508 feet. He had a 514-foot blast that remains one of the 3 longest in Derby history. Alonso powered past Trey Mancini to win his second Derby crown. Afterward, he beat his chest a bit, saying, quote, I think I'm the best power hitter on the planet. You know what? I dig it. You don't normally get those kind of quotes out of him. It's very rare that he'll get that kind of brash, outspoken type behavior. And it's like, you know what? Believe in yourself. Okay? Believe. So right there in the team slogan. Number 94 came on August 12th, 2021, 4 days after delivering an impassioned post-game speech in which he implored Mets fans to, quote, believe in us. Alonso hit his second career walk-off homer in Game 2 of a doubleheader sweep of the Nats. That 2021 season, so fucking frustrating. Lindor's first season, we make a deal. We dish Peter Crow Armstrong, future All-Star, to rent Javi Baez, who basically like just imploded the clubhouse and turned Lindor on the fans, but did provide one of the coolest highlights in Mets history. Lost a diamond necklace. Deserves it. Number 116 came May 19th, 2022, and this was a walk-off against the Cardinals with a 447-foot shot that approached a glass-encased luxury club in Citi Field's second deck. So that was obviously a very cool season that ended very uncool. It was just like, it just was magical, and then the magic just fucking ran out, like at the worst possible time. So, but it was fun for a good chunk of the season, although I don't think we could enjoy it because the Braves were breathing down our neck the entire time, and historic season that we couldn't enjoy because of the Braves. Fucking Atlanta. Number 161 came May 17th, 2023. This was a walk-off 3-run ding-dong in the 10th inning of an 8-7 win over the Rays. Capped a delirious evening that saw Mark Vientos hit a game-tying 2-run homer in the 7th, Francisco Alvarez crushing a game-tying 3-run shot in the 9th, and it remains one of the most memorable regular season Mets victories in recent memory. In Tampa Bay's post-game clubhouse, Rays closer Pete Fairbanks quipped, quote, "Just a very unfortunate time to be the lesser Pete." Yeah, dude. Sucks when that happens. Can't say that I've been there, but it sucks. There is no greater Pete than Polar. October 3rd, 2024. Every single Pete Alonso long ball pales compared to his go-ahead 3-run blast to stun the Brewers in the 9th inning of the National League Wildcard Series Game 3. It doesn't count towards his career total, oddly enough, but one of the most impactful homers in franchise history. Alonso had 5 home runs over 16 career playoff games. None of the others had anything close to this sort of effect. Then you had, of course, 242 and 243 came on June 8th of this season. Entering the year, ranked 3rd on the list, Alonso tied and passed David Wright on the same day in a win over the Rockies. That left only Straw ahead of him. And then he hit number 252 on August 9th. 413-foot blast to tie Strawberry. And what's even more impressive here is that Alonso was able to hit 252 home runs in just 963 games, 143 games fewer than Darryl. And then numbers 253 and 254 came on August 12th, 3 days after tying Straw. Alonso passed him in the multi-homer game at Citi Field. The record-setting home run was a line shot off Spencer Strider to give Alonso sole possession of the record. 3 innings later, he had another beginning his quest of putting the record far out of reach for future generations. So, good on you, Pete. Proud of you. And it's not done yet. It's not done yet. Going to be a lot of records that are going to fall, despite what's going on with the team right now and how they're in an absolute goddamn tailspin. Putting that aside, I'm very excited about the prospects of guys like Lindor, Alonso, and Soto taking over the record books. It feels like we haven't had since David Wright, and David Wright was pretty much out of commish for most of the 2010s, from at least the latter half. And of course, his last season was 2018. So it's like we got some good parts to him in 2015, but then it was, so it's been a minute since we've had, and even before David Wright, who did we have? God damn. You look at a lot of the record books, it's like Strawberry, Johnson, and then Reyes and Wright came along, which is great. So it's cool to know that we if we can keep this core together, that they'll be dominating the record books, hopefully. Or we collapse and miss the playoffs and they blow everything up. That's also a possibility. As I mentioned, the Mets moved Frankie Montes to the bullpen right around this time, which makes sense. There's been talk about possibly moving Clay Holmes to the bullpen, which also might make sense. There were a lot of question marks about his durability, considering that he hasn't been a full-time starter since 2021. And he, spent a lot of time in the bullpen over the past few years. So maybe he's more efficient and better placed there. But then, like, who do you replace him with? And it's like, I don't know that you have enough arms to make that kind of move. Like, Manaea has been awful. Even Peterson has regressed. He was our ace, statistically this year. He's regressed. Senga's has just been sent down to the minors. DFA'd Blackburn. Canning was lost for the season. Like, McGill's still battling an elbow thing and going through rehab. It's wild to think about, like, our rotation, our starting rotation. If we do, by some modern miracle, make the goddamn playoffs, which it's not looking great, we could have a starting rotation in the playoffs that consists of Nolan McLean, Jonah, Tong, and Brandon Sprode. What the fuck? That's just wild. 3 guys that were not on the opening day roster. One or more guys was at AA to start the season. It's just nuts. Alonso had tied the record in the big blowout win against the Braves to lead off that set. And then we just went right ahead and took all that good energy and all that great momentous celebration and happiness, and we lost the next 2. 11-6 and 4-3 at home, dropping 2 of 3 to the Braves, who are basically, I don't know that they're phoning it in, but it's like their season's fucking over. It's been over for a while. They've been ravaged by injuries. There was a crazy stat that I heard and saw where it was like, this just happened like last week, I'm going to say. They finally, a Braves shortstop got the first home run for Braves shortstops this season. We're in the home stretch here, people. We're in the last month of the season, and a Braves shortstop finally hit a home run. So it's like, that should give you an idea of like what's going on with the Braves. And yet we dropped 2 of 3 at home where we're supposed to win. Reed Garrett got the loss in that Wednesday game, and then our boy Ryan Helsley, Hells Bells, got the L in that Thursday, August 14th game. And so my mind's like, all right, now we're about to face the fucking Mariners, who are, vying for the playoffs on the big dumper of Cal Raleigh. And we lose the first game 11-9. Take a wild guess who gets the loss there again. Ryan Helsley. Congratulations. From August 8th to 15th, that week, not a great week. Mets did something rather remarkable, blowing leads in 7 consecutive games. They had only been done one other time over the last 17 years, kid. So, on paper, we looked like we've refortified the bullpen. I don't know that we made any big splash moves for the starting rotation, but we maybe didn't feel like we needed to. We thought we could do what we did last year with Manaea and Severino, and we thought we could do that with Clay Holmes and maybe Montas, and none of it's paid off, dude. Truly, a lot of guys having their career worst seasons this year. I don't think I've ever seen collectively a bunch of guys have their worst career season all in one season, but it is happening. It is contagious. Catch the fever. So the Mets do bounce back here. We ended up taking the next 2 against the Mariners 3-1 on Saturday, and this is because we brought up Mr. Nolan McLean. He joined Matt Harvey as the only Mets starters to earn the win in a scoreless debut with at least 8 strikeouts. He averaged 2,995 revolutions per minute on his sweeper and 3,279 revolutions per minute on his curveball. At the time, only 3 regular Major League starters feature higher average sweeper spin rates in this season, and no one has a better average curveball spin rate. So we got ourselves kind of a Seth Lugo 2.0 going on right now, and I am all about it. Sunday, August 17th, the Mets win 7-3 over the Mariners in the Little League Classic at Williamsport, Pennsylvania. You gotta have to kind of feel for the Mariners. It's like they're going across the country for this road trip, and then they have to go to Williamsport, Pennsylvania to face us. So that must have taken a toll on them. But Clay Holmes got the win there. So we're on a bit of a streak. That's 2 in a row, folks. No big deal. As I mentioned, we designated Paul Blackburn for assignment. Of course, he then goes to the Braves, and everyone was like, "Oh, great!" And then he's going to start against us, and he's going to shut us down. And I don't think it happened, but damn, it was hanging over us like a black cloud. Blackburn came to the team at the 2024 trade deadline last year, and wound up appearing in just 12 games as a Met. So that was not great. Didn't want to see it. Didn't like it, but it is what it is. Then we get a gem, an absolute gem from David Peterson in a Nats series that when we take a look back in the yearbook for the Mets 2025 season, this might be a series where we're like, oh, fuck, how did that happen? So Tuesday, August 19th, we beat the Nationals 8-1. Peterson gets the dub. He went 8 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, and 10 Ks. And he became the 5th Mets starter this season to pitch into the 8th inning of a game, joining David Peterson, and David Peterson. Yeah. No other Mets starter has pitched into the 8th inning of a game this year, which is Joe DeMeo at PSL to Flushing on August 19th said Brett Beatty has quietly had a big August. Coming into that day, he was slashing 345, 406, and 552 this month. And then his home run was the 3rd of the month, 109.6 miles per hour off the bat, and traveled 428 feet. So it would seem that given how quiet things have been for Ronnie Mauricio, he has not seen the field a lot. Acuna is more of a pinch runner, late inning defensive replacement. Saved that one game against the Reds, the first game, which we won, and then dropped the next 2. Awesome. So it seems like Beatty should be in the mix. What's the issue now is, like, what do you do with McNeil? And I don't know that you figured out, because you put him in center because he's the best offensive option in center, but he's not the best defensive option. His arm's not there. Range is not there. I mean, he's willing to fly. I mean, it's the flying squirrel. So he'll fly around for you, and he'll dive and make plays, but don't know that he has the same kind of range as a Cedric Mullins or Tyrone Taylor or Jose Siri. So what does that mean for Beatty? I don't know. I guess you put Vientos at DH, Beatty at 3rd, McNeil at 2nd, Siri in center. That's an option. And then, there it is. It's been so long since I made that joke. It's been since like April. And here it is. My devices are listening. So it's good to see that Beatty's back on track, and he's been able to get things going again. Same with Mark Vientos, coming around and turning the corner and turning it on. A major reason why we were not winning games, or we've been struggling to win games, was because Francisco Alvarez has either been hurt or not hitting, and Mark Vientos has been hurt and not hitting. And it's like, if you can just get those guys back on, Alvarez is hurt again with the thumb. It seems like he just doesn't know how to slide. It's like, if we could just get Vientos and Alvarez at the top of their game, and then Beatty swinging the bat, it's great. But as we saw in August, it's like it almost doesn't matter how many fucking runs you put up. Our pitching cannot hold a lead. A little bit demoralizing. And then we dropped the next 2. Lost 5-4 to the Nats on that Wednesday, August 20th, to drop 6.5 games back. Kodai Senga gets the L. Thursday, August 21st, we lose 9-3. That one was just awful. Sean Manaea getting his ass blasted. So this was right around the time that the MLB announced that they're going to be expanding the league from 30 teams to 32. They're going to add 2. I guess the leading contenders for the 2 spots. Nashville seems like a lock. And then the other team, I guess, is going to be Portland, Oregon, which is, I feel like you got to put a dome out there, right? That's got to be a dome type situation. And so that had people talking about there's got to be a realignment in the mix. Of course, this is not going to happen for a couple of years, but it's fun to think about and play around with. So I know everyone's put out their own version, but I think the Forbes one makes a certain degree of sense. They seem to think that Salt Lake City might get the team over Portland, which is definitely a possibility. I know Salt Lake City, Utah just got a hockey team, the Utah Mammoth. So they have the Northwest Division, which they have it right. I like this arrangement where it's kind of like the NFL. It's 8 divisions with 4 teams in each division. I like that more than the 4 divisions of 8 teams. That feels, I don't know. I don't like that. I don't know. I don't know why I don't like that, but I don't like it. I think I like more divisions, more division champions. It's something even for the mid-tier teams that are like, you're probably not going to win a lot. It's like, it's nice to hang a banger, a banner once in a while. So they have the Northwest Division, Mariners, Giants, Salt Lake City, the expansion team, and the Rockies. I think that one's an interesting division. In the West, they have the Dodgers, Angels, Diamondbacks, and Padres. That's going to be a sick division. I like that a lot. There is something to be said about placing the quote-unquote crosstown rivals from different leagues in the same division. I think there's something to be said there where it's like, it kind of takes away, it doesn't make it as special, so I can see that argument for sure. The South Division, Forbes has Rangers, the Texas Rangers, Houston Astros, Kansas City Royals, and the Las Vegas A's, which is an interesting pick. I don't know if I totally agree with that. Southeast Division, it's the Rays, Marlins, Braves, and Nationals. Again, I don't know anyone's writing home about that. And then in the East Division, you have the Yankees, Mets, Phillies, and Red Sox. That is just going to be an absolute fucking bloodbath. That's going to be like, oh my fucking God, dude. What a division. I mean, it's similar to like what was going on in the 2020 COVID season where it's like they weren't traveling very far. It's like everyone's kind of right in Boston or New York in the Northeast. So, but that was fun. I dug that. Now, is it going to take a little juice out of the rivalry between, the Mets and the Yankees? Some might say that, where it's just like we're division rivals now. It's like, huh? But then again, you have the Nets and the Knicks. I mean, the Nets and the Knicks is not a great example. Jets, Giants are different conferences. I mean, you do have a lot of the Devils, Rangers, Devils, Islanders in the NHL, so it's not completely unheard of, and I still think the rivalry's there, but like, does it lose some of that specialty, novelty, if it's just like they're division rivals? I don't know. Mid-Division 1, which is a very creative name. They have Mid-Division 1, Mid-Division 2, Mid-Division 3. Mid-Division 1 would be Tigers, Cubs, Twins, and the Nashville team. I don't understand that one. That one doesn't make any sense. I would rather, we'll get to the map in a second, but I think Nashville makes more sense in the same division as like the Braves, Rays, and Marlins. Mid-Division 2 would be the Pittsburgh Pirates, Cleveland Guardians, Chicago White Sox, and Cincinnati Reds. Interesting. Mid-Division 3 would be the Cardinals, Brewers, Blue Jays, and Orioles. That one's a wild one. That one's like, huh? So that's Forbes. I don't know if I 100% agree with everything there, but there was a Reddit user who posted his or her thoughts. I don't gender Reddit profiles, bro. Posted his thoughts on the realignment, and I don't hate this. American League, National League, 4 divisions in the AL, 4 divisions in the NL. You have the East, North, South, and West in each league. AL East would be Yankees, Red Sox, Nationals, Orioles, which is interesting. I think, I'm kind of being hypocritical here and going against what I just said, but I do think Nats O's would be a nice division rivalry to set up. It's like I would love to see the Commanders versus Ravens every friggin' year, dude. I've been pushing for that for a long time to have a. I mean, they did it. MLB did it this year with Rivalry Weekend or Rivalry Week. Say that 10 times fast. Holy fuck, dude! How's your tongue, dude? So I'd like to see that in base. Like that just needs to be a permanent fixture in baseball, whether you're in the same division or in the same league or not. It's like these have historically been our rivals. We have a hatred for them. Let's just make it into a thing. We need more special things. People were not crazy about the Braves-Reds game at the NASCAR track, but I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Why not? I mean, you look at the success that the Savannah Bananas have had, in terms of like where they're playing. They played at I think they played at Clemson's football stadium. That was a wild game to watch because it was like left field fence is like a little league fence, 200 feet. And they just have a gigantic net and you can play it off the net. It was like arena football. And then right field is like 600 feet. I'm a gimmicky kind of guy and I'm a sucker for that shit. So, but yeah, I'm all for Nats and O's in the same division. AL North would be Detroit Tigers, Cleveland Guardians, Toronto Blue Jays, and Chicago White Sox. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. I mean, you think about, I think everyone just has it ingrained in their brain that Toronto belongs in the AL East, but you look at where they're situated, it's essentially Buffalo, and Buffalo's like, close to Cleveland and right around the lakes there. Detroit, Michigan, it's right in that area, so it feels like that's where they belong, not in the AL East. And I think he meant the Reddit user mentioned that in his reasoning is like the Blue Jays have to travel like an insane amount because of all the division games that they have that are not as close as other divisional opponents. So I guess you could say the same thing about the Braves. I guess the Braves have to travel like a ridiculous amount, but I have no sympathy for you, Atlanta. I apologize. I apologize that I'm not sorry. AL South will be Texas Rangers, KC Royals, Houston Astros, and the Colorado Rockies. Colorado's an interesting state. I don't know if you've taken a look at a map lately. It's not as west as you think it is, and it's not as north as you think it is. It's actually kind of further south and further east than you would think. So I don't know that I necessarily hate that in the South because there are further south than you would think. So I'm open to it. Let me get a couple drinks in me and see what I feel about it after a couple of drinks. AL West is Seattle Mariners, Los Angeles Angels, the Las Vegas A's, and the Portland Pioneers. He or she went as far as to name the new expansion team in Portland, and I don't hate it. Portland Pioneers just sounds right. Throw a fur cap on that motherfucker. That's got to be a theme night. Instead of baseball hats, they all wear fur caps. Oh my God, Neal. Like I said, I love a gimmick. So that's the AL, and that's a pretty good layout there. So on to the National League, NL East. Mets, Phillies, Reds, Pirates, which is at first blush, I guess if you are of the younger generation, you might be like, what the fuck? But as someone who grew up in the 80s, the Mets-Reds rivalry was huge. And Mets-Pirates was also a little bit of a rivalry. Phillies-Pirates has that crosstown PA rivalry where it's Philly versus Pittsburgh, like Eagles versus Steelers. Like there is still that little bit of animosity there. So I've warmed up to it. At first, it was like, huh? And then I was like, that might make sense. But again, Ohio and Pittsburgh, I don't know. NL North would be Chicago Cubs, Milwaukee Brewers, St. Louis Cardinals, and Minnesota Twins. Great, no notes. That's like perfect. I don't know that you need to change that. That is like perfect. The only thing that I could see possibly changing, I was thinking you could possibly switch the Brewers and Tigers. So you have the Tigers go in the NL North, the Brewers go in the AL North. So then you have Brewers Guardians, Brewers Blue Jays, Brewers White Sox. Because the Brewers used to be in the American League. So maybe you could rekindle that. Detroit, I don't believe has ever been in the National League. But you have it's just the natural, I'm thinking like NFL, NBA rivalries, that Detroit-Chicago rivalry, Detroit-St. Louis, Detroit-Minnesota. But I'm fine with this layout as well. NL South will be Braves, Marlins, Rays, and the Nashville Stars. I'm here to say I don't like it. I understand it. I don't like it. So Portland Pioneers, sure. Nashville Stars, not so much. I think Nashville had or has a minor league team where it's just the bats, Nashville Bats, and they're actual bats, holding bats. And I was just like, perfect. Why do we need to? Let's not overthink this, folks. That's perfect. So I dig that one. That one makes a lot more sense than what Forbes had. And then the NL West will be this is a hellacious division. Dodgers, Giants, Padres, D-backs. Woo-wee! That's going to be a good one. So effectively the Rockies move out of the NL West into the AL South, which is, again, it's, I don't mind it. I think the Rockies could use a nice, a new change of scenery in terms of the division. I don't know that they have really formed any kind of rivalry with LA, San Francisco, San Diego, Arizona, because they're just too far away. But I think they're closer. Well, we're about to get to the map, but I think they're closer to those other teams that are in the AL South as it's laid out right there. So now we get to look at the map, or at least I get to look at the map, and then I'm going to try and paint a picture for you. The two leading contenders are Portland and Nashville. If it is Salt Lake City, I don't think it's going to throw everything into a state of disarray. But the way that they have it circled here, it would be the 8 divisions of 4 teams each. And they have it, the way it's circled here, this is from Yahoo. Mariners, Portland, Las Vegas A's, Diamondbacks. I don't like that because you look at like where the A's and Diamondbacks are situated, and it's just too far away. I think you're better off doing Mariners, Portland, Giants, A's. Again, not great for the A's or Giants, but it's kind of like split 50-50. It's like it's going to stink for the Mariners in Portland when they got to play the A's or Giants, and then it's going to stink for the A's and Giants when they got to go up there. So I would rather see the A's with the Giants and the Mariners in Portland. But again, in looking at the division, it's like, woof, okay. Like A's, Giants, I think that would be nice to rekindle something going there. I dig that a lot. You have the 89 World Series. They used to be crosstown rivals in Oakland, Oakland, San Francisco, right nearby each other. So I'd rather see the A's in the same division as the Giants. So I would go A's, Giants, Portland, Mariners. And then you have Dodgers, Angels, Padres, Diamondbacks, which I like a lot. I think that would be cool. Because the Diamondbacks have got, there's a huge feud going on with the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, huge feud going on with the Dodgers and the Padres. The Angels have always been a little brother, so it'd be nice to them to put up a fight. So that I'd rather group it that way. Oy. And then, in looking at the map, Denver is not as far west as you think it is. It's really Midwest. And so you'd have the Astros, Rangers, Royals, and Rockies, which perfect. I don't think you need to change that at all. And then the North Division would be Blue Jays, Tigers, Brewers, Twins, which is cool. But I think they should change that. Let me circle back to that because the Southeast makes sense. Marlins, Rays, Braves, Nashville. Again, that might be the most... This is where the rivalry games have to come into play because I think the Braves and Mets and Braves, maybe not Braves, Phillies as much, but I would rather see, that's a tough division. That's on par with the Giants, A's, Portland, Mariners division in terms of it's not exactly tweaking my nips. You know what I'm saying? It's not giving me goosebumps. But who knows? I do think that Nashville franchise, if they could put together a competitive team, would be a nice rivalry for the Braves. I do think if they could somehow manufacture that, and the Braves might not be on board with that at first, but Nashville's got to be like, hey, Braves, you guys fucking suck, and let's go. But I do still think you need to have those rivalry games here and there, rivalry weekend, rivalry series. Legacy, I don't know if you call it rivalry or if you call it legacy, something along those lines. But yet again, you look at the map and Nashville is close to Cincinnati and to St. Louis. But yet again, if you put Nashville in that division, with the Cardinals and Reds, Cubs and White Sox, then you're down a team in the Southeast. It is insane to me that the Southeast is just a hotbed and a factory for baseball players, in my opinion. It's just I think, obviously college football reigns supreme, but I would have to think that baseball is a close second just because of the weather. And it's just baseball weather. And it's just, I feel like you see a lot of guys in the majors that are from that area. So you'd think there'd be more, a bigger appetite. But I guess it's just so rural that they wouldn't be able to put up the numbers. But you look at Carolina, dude. I think Carolina should be in the running, but I guess that's not in the mix. Why can't Charlotte, be a consideration? I don't know, because then that would make things easier. But then you'd have to. I think you might want to go Charlotte over Nashville, but I think Nashville deserves it. So yeah, that division is not exactly getting anyone too excited. But then you have that division with the Cardinals, Reds, Cubs, White Sox. That's pretty cool. You are splitting up the Kansas and Missouri type situation. Like, I think that needs to be an ongoing matchup every year, Royals versus Cardinals. I don't know why that's not in the mix there. If you do decide like Salt Lake City gets it over Portland, could you do A's, Diamondbacks, Salt Lake City, Rockies? And then you got to find a place for the Mariners then. So yeah, it's tricky. Twins, Brewers, Tigers, Blue Jays, I like. But like the Guardians in Cleveland are so close to the Tigers that I'd want to see Tigers and Guardians in the same division. You have the Guardians, Pirates, O's, and Nationals in the same division, which I'm not crazy about. I don't like that. And then Phillies, Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, which is everyone's just covered in blood. Just like we're gonna set a record for the most in stadium and parking lot fights. Just brawls and brawls and brawls. We gotta double and triple security at these stadiums. But what else would you do there? Because the Nats and the Orioles are kind of hanging out to dry. Very interesting. But Eastern and Western conferences. They also have like Chicago, the Chicago teams, and the St. Louis and Cincinnati in the Western Conference. I don't know that we need to do Western and Eastern Conference. That just that always throws me off. Like even in the NHL, they did that where it's like, oh, the Red Wings are going to be in the Eastern Conference and the Blackhawks are in the West. It's like, what? They're literally right there. They're okay. Yeah, so that's the MLB expansion realignment, proposed realignment. I don't know why, but I get like very excited about coming up with. Anytime an expansion team is mentioned, I get way too excited. Like I love like coming up with the names, logos, uniforms. Like it's just it's a thing. Then we rounded out that Atlanta series with a 12-7 win on the wings of Nolan McLean. Howie Rose on X posted, "There's a reason the pitcher's mound is in the center of the diamond. The pitcher is the focal point. Nothing happens until he throws the ball. The longer a starting pitcher stays in the game, the more compelling the game becomes. Nice job, Nolan McLean. Great to see a solid 7. The Mets collected 21 hits as Nolan McLean earned his second MLB win in Atlanta. He's only 24 years old, and he was 2-0 with a 1.46 ERA in 2 starts. Whoa, what a godsend. Couldn't have come at a better time. Kind of wish he came up a little bit earlier. But I fucking cringe thinking about where we'd be if he wasn't in the starting rotation. And then, oh yeah, Juan Soto, remember that guy? He signed a contract. It wasn't like too crazy. It wasn't like a lot of money or anything. Everyone was shitting on him, and rightfully so. There was a time, my friends, where his batting average with runners in scoring position, and it's either runners in scoring position or runners in scoring position with 2 outs, he's batting under 200. It was just like, okay, what is going on here? In his first season with the Mets, as of August 22nd, 31 home runs, 72 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, 381 on-base percentage, 872 OPS. And oh, by the way, at the time, he's the only player in Major League Baseball with 30-plus home runs and 20-plus stolen bases. He is probably going to be inducted into the 30-30 club this season. So he's really turned it on as of late. And, desperately needed, dude. So keep it up. And then we ended up taking it to the Braves in taking the sweep, winning all 3 games in Atlanta, which is typically a house of horrors. So that was good to see. Much needed. I was very worried that weekend because I was like, this feels like we're just gonna go into Atlanta and it's gonna be another horror show, NC-17 rating, and human centipede level of gore. Just like we're not gonna be able to figure this out, and that's gonna really be like the death knell for this season. But we caught Atlanta at a fairly good time. I mean, they called up Cal Quantrill, who had been in the minors and DFA'd and all that stuff. And Clay Holmes gets another win. Matthew Bronstein, X, on August 23rd, said that Juan Soto is the first player since Jeff Bagwell in 1999 to record 20-plus stolen bases, 30-plus home runs, and 100-plus walks within his team's first 128 games of a season. I mean, 1999 Jeff Bagwell is peak Bagwell, peak steroids, like peak juice, like just, ugh. And of course, in that same game, Starling Marte throws out a runner at home on the fly in the bottom of the third when the Mets were up 3-0. Good to see from Unk, as they call him. Jeff McNeil also got his 900th hit, which is great to see. I don't know. I don't think he's going to make it to 3,000, but you never know. Jake Brown on X said that Mets starting pitchers have gone 6+ innings on back-to-back days for the first time since 1986. That might be tinged with a little bit of humor. I don't know that you need to take it that seriously. That's like an Onion headline. But it did feel like that. I mean, we have not had that for a long time. I know that Kyle Gelling has that Twitter account dedicated to, did the Mets pitchers go 5 innings this start? It might be 6 innings or 5 innings, but it's like the numbers are low this season. Not a lot of posts. Not a lot of yeses from that account. We did end up losing the last game of that Atlanta series, which is unfortunate. Lost 4-3. Gregory Soto takes the L there. And so that puts us 7 games back of the Phillies. Michael Barron, on August 24th, he posted, the Mets are hitting .313, .377, and .588 with 30 doubles, a triple, 32 home runs, and 87 runs scored over the last 13 games, and they're 6-7 during that span. It was just, that was the staple of August. That was the big takeaway, was the offense was churning and burning, and the pitching staff just could not keep it together. And then we go and sweep the Phillies at home. We shellacked them in the opener on Monday, August 25th, 13-3. It was announced that Frankie Montas, this is when Frankie Montas, they announced that he was done for the season after suffering a major elbow injury. Had a walk-off win the next night, 6-5. Edwin Diaz gets the win. The Mets, at that point, had beaten the Phillies 9 straight games at home. And you know what? Let's make it 10 because Nolan McLean comes in. The Mets get a shutout win, 6-0, to move 4 games back of the Phillies. McLean is at that point had produced a .89 ERA over 3 starts and became the first pitcher to earn a win in each of his first Mets pitcher to earn a win in each of his first 3 appearances. Again, that is some pretty elite stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, hey, we're 4 games back. We just swept the Phillies. We outscored them by 17 runs over 3 games, 25-8. We're flying high, and this is where we catch fire and go on a fucking tear. And then we lose 3 or 4 to the Marlins. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? Yet again, the Marlins, a thorn in our side for as long as I can remember. They have always played spoiler. They have always been a problem. And I never see that changing. And it's very weird. It's very weird. I think about, like, Eli Manning, future Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, sucked out loud against the Vikings his entire career. Just couldn't beat the Vikings. Couldn't figure it out. Same with, like, I think it was like the Colts, or there's another team where it's just like he just can't win against them. And he plays god-awful against them. And it's not like they're this, I'm not knocking those franchises, but it's not like whatever. And it's just, sometimes you see that fish or you see those colors and you're just, your mind turns off. You just forget how to play baseball. So, the first game we lose 7-4. Soto takes another L there. Gregory Soto. And we call up Jonah Tong, who turned 22 in June, allowed 0 runs in 2 AAA starts, and boasted a 1.43 ERA and 113 2/3 minor league innings this year, striking out 179 hitters and walking 47. He ripped off 11 2/3 scoreless innings with 17 strikeouts and 3 walks since his promotion to AAA. So it's a very fast ascension for Jonah Tong, but it's kind of like, would we have preferred to do this? Ideally, no. We wouldn't have to do this. We would allow them to develop down in the minors, but the fact that he was able to come up and give us such a great performance and get the W against the Marlins and a 19-9 win is truly impressive. His next start was not as good, but still encouraging. He gave up 3 home runs against the Reds, and that was the difference, but those were the only 3 hits they had. And I think he went 5 or 6 innings, so it's like, not bad. He gave up more home runs in that one game than he had in the entire season in the minors. He gave up 2 total home runs in the minors and then 3 in that one game. That was like, oh boy. But responded well, held his own, kept the team fairly, within striking distance, which is all you can ask for. And then we dropped another game to the Marlins, 11-8, to fall 6 games back of the friggin' Phillies. Tyler Rogers got the loss. Jared Carabas tweeted, the Mets as a team are hitting .328 with a .967 OPS with runners in scoring position in the second half. League average is .259 with a .766 OPS. Pretty crazy. And yet we can't win the ball game. Mets Muse tweeted, the New York Mets have to be the single most confusing team in baseball. They simply make no sense. Wholeheartedly agree. Full stamp of approval. I don't know how you can sweep the Phillies, lose a series to the Marlins, who are really not in playoff contention, lose a series to the Braves at home, who are not anywhere near playoff contention, take 2 of 3 from the Tigers. Like, what? In Detroit. What? Jocelyn at Jossie Tour on August 30th tweeted, the Miami Marlins is a franchise that is literally useless in every aspect except crushing Mets fans in the month of August and September. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's why they were an expansion team. That's why the commish was pushing for them to be a team. They were like, we need to keep the Mets off kilter. We need to befuddle the New York Mets fan base. So let's just introduce the Florida Marlins. And then we dropped the final game of that set, 5-1. Kodai Senga, another shit-tastic performance. I just think he just couldn't find his groove this year. Ben Yole at Ben_Yole tweeted, only the Mets can sweep the Phillies and lose 3 out of 4 to the Marlins. That's a fact. Although, I don't know, you look around the league and it's like the Dodgers have struggled. Like, no one really wants to win the National League West. Like, the Padres looked like they could have come in and taken over, and then they falter and stumble. The Giants are on a heater now, but, like, are they going to fall off? Like, it happens. Like, even the Yankees were struggling for so long, but, like, they're still in the playoffs and the playoff hunt. So, it's a fucking long season, but it does feel like the Mets are just like, what is going on here? Mets, Rich McLeod said the Mets had their best offensive month in Mets franchise history. They went 11-17. How does that happen? Tyler at Wardy NYM tweeted, in case you're wondering just how costly this Mets pitching staff has been, allow me to deliver a novel of information. The New York Mets just put up their best statistical offense month ever and still managed to finish 11-17. Actually hilarious how this organization went from being adamant on, quote, we can't call up the kids out of team need and desperation, quote, end quote, when the reality is that they, in fact, need the kids because of that reason. The rotation is in literal shambles, and the only signs of life have come from the inexperienced top starting pitching prospects. If Brandon Sproat isn't starting for this Mets team at any point over the next week, they failed their pitching approach yet again. And no, it's not that Sproat will be dominant right away, as it's the fact that the club has no other options. This is what happens when you decide to play the conservative game with a rotation that showed clear flaws months ago. And we did call up Brandon Sproat, and he pitched fairly well in his debut. It's just, again, if we make the playoffs and we have McLean, Tong, and Sproat as our starting rotation games 1 through 3, it's going to be interesting. Just Mets at just_Mets on September 1st tweeted the Mets on September 1st in the last two seasons. In 2025, 73 and 64, 4-game lead on the third wildcard spot. In 2024, we were 73 and 64, 1 game back of the third wildcard spot. Same exact record on September 1st from 2024 to 2025, and it feels like two ships crossing in the night, my guy. It feels like we're going in the opposite direction of what was going on in 2024, where we were just like heating up in the second half, catching fire from, June 1st on. It was like we were one of the worst teams in baseball up until June 1st, and then we just flipped a switch. And then this year, it's like we were one of the best teams in baseball until June 13th, and it was just like, and then we just, just collectively got amnesia, like soap opera style. Like, oh, I have a twin brother? What? And you're also my husband? What? So, yeah, it's wild that you can have the same record, but totally different outlooks, perspectives, and directions going on. Michael Barron said that Juan Soto is on pace to hit 42 home runs, 104 RBIs, and 30 stolen bases. I think if you look at those numbers heading into it, and those are the projections, you'd be like, I'll take it. I mean, yes, obviously you're going to have the people out there like, we're paying him $750 million. He needs to hit 100 home runs and do it. It's like, reality check, dude. Reality check. That money does not translate into numbers. That's not the correlation. There's not like a currency exchange like, oh, well, it's 1 home run to every dollar. Like, no, that's not how it works. But I'll sign up for that every year for the next fucking 10 years, dude. Yes, I will sign up for that. So for as much as people shit on him and said he wants out, and he did struggle for a while, especially with runners in scoring position, but he has been absolutely in fuego of late, especially with guys on base. So glad to see the turnaround. I think they put up a graphic tonight showcasing there were 4 players that really take off in September and then in the playoff run in the month leading up to the playoffs. Soto's numbers are crazy good. I think Starling Marte also has some really great numbers, and I think it was Lindor and Pete might be the other two. I forget if it was the fourth one, if it was Pete or not. But speaking of Lindor, Francisco Lindor in August. This is from New York Mets Stats at NYM Stats on X. Francisco Lindor in August, 28 games, 41 for 117, 26 runs, 8 doubles, 6 home runs, 17 ribbies, 9 stolen bases, 12 walks, 24 strikeouts. His batting line is 350, 424, 573, and he has a 182 WRC plus. I'm trying to forget what the fuck that means, but it seems like it's pretty dang good. So cool that the bats have awoken from their slumber and that everyone's deciding to hit, especially with ducks on the pond. But you still are not getting the kind of pitching that is going to win you games to keep you in the playoff. Like it'll be a fucking miracle if we make the playoffs. And it's at the point now where it's I almost like, do we even want to make the playoffs? Because like we're gonna get smoked in the playoffs. It feels like at this point, that's what it feels like. But again, we're a confusing team. Maybe that goes in our favor where people are like, well, we don't know what the fuck to make of the Mets, and so maybe we come out and just go on a fucking tear. But so that was August. A lot of positives offensively. Nolan McLean's a positive. Jonah Tong, I'm going to mark down as a positive. Everyone else is the rest of the pitching staff. Woof. I mean, Sengagan demoted. Montaz lost. Blackburn DFA'd. Helsley just putting all Mets fans in hell. It's been rough. So, but hopefully, I don't know if Tyler McGill had a setback or something, but it'd be nice to get him back in the fold. I know that he has not. Outside of April, he's not that great, but he's got to be better than. I mean, they put out a graphic with the Mets starters in August, and it's like literally every starter, even Peterson included, had an ERA over 6 or something like that. Like Peterson was approaching 6 and everyone else was 6 or above. It's just, whoa, dude. Can't win games like that. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to. If we do make the playoffs, I will probably not be doing a recap, or if I do a recap of September, it'll be very quick and brief because I want to preview the playoff series, postseason series. But if we don't make the playoffs, I'll do a recap of September and the year. But so now it's September 9th. We just dropped another one to the Phillies. We are now 3-5 to start September. Not great. Ryan Stanek has been pretty brutal this season, which sucks. I was glad that we brought him back, but he's another one where, I mean, they put up his numbers the other day during an outing, and I was just like, holy fuck, dude. ERA over 5, lots of blown save opportunities, not a lot of holds. OPS is high, batting average is high. Like, it's just across the board not great, which sucks because I liked him, and I thought he would carry over his success from last season into this season, and it has not been the case. Diaz has gotten 2 saves so far in September. Tong did take the loss on Saturday against the Reds, like I mentioned. It was a rough outing, but only gave up 3 hits. They're all home runs, which sucks. Interesting, too, how the Mets have gone about acquiring these arms and bringing up these arms. You look at the new acquisitions and the call-ups, the arm angles, you would think that would have some type of effect on the opponents, because you have Tong, who's directly over the top. You have McLean, who's more like 3/4, who, is more left to right. And you have Rogers, who's a submariner coming from below. You have Helsley coming up the top. And you would think that all these different arm angles and release points would throw off the opposing batters, but not the case so far. And fucking Harrison Bader going to the Phillies and just crushing us. Just like Pat Burrell type Mets killer numbers. Of course, that would happen, of course. So, as I mentioned, take 2 of 3 from the Tigers, 10-8, 12-5. We lose the finale 6-2. We take the opener against the Reds in a very vital, crucial series that we needed to win to put to bed any worries or concerns about a tiebreaker, and we failed miserably, losing 2 of 3. And we probably should have been swept because it took Luis Angel Acuna making an outstanding play with Edwin Diaz to prevent that game going into extra innings or losing it. The Phillies series, guys on second and third in the 9th with 1 out, with no outs or 1 out. No outs or 1 out, and it's just like Jeff McNeil just hit a fly ball. And I understand it's against Duran, one of the top closers that the Phillies acquired at the deadline. But this is a guy that we got to in the homestand where we swept them, and we had that walk-off win. We had 4 consecutive hits to take the win there. It's like he's vulnerable. It's not like he's invincible. And McNeil, I think he struck out. And then Francisco Alvarez had one of the worst at-bats that I have ever fucking seen in my life, in a big spot, in a divisional game, in the middle of a playoff run. One of the least competitive, wildest at-bats I've ever seen. Duran throws like 3 sliders off the plate, a foot or more, and Alvarez is swinging out of his shoes and not even sniffing that friggin' ball and striking out. It's like, dude, just take a strike. Just take a goddamn strike. And that ends up being McLean's first loss. We lose 1-0, but McLean gave a pretty good performance. He had some kind of cut on his finger that I think might have been affecting his pitching. Something to keep an eye on, but you just gotta dip that shit in the jar of pickle juice, my friend. I think I actually ended up doing that once, and it does a trick. I've had the it's mostly on the middle finger, but I've had like a blister on the middle finger that really sucks. And I think I've tried to do like a not your tradish Band-Aid, but I think the trainers might have some kind of other Band-Aid where it's a little bit thinner, it's not as bulky, and you might have a little bit more feeling to it, but obviously affects how you deliver and spin rate and all that good shit. So we dropped tonight's game 9-3. We have 2 more games. Hopefully you can split that series and at least keep this within reasonable distance, because right now we're 9 games back of the division. It feels like, I know that people are trying to manifest this turning of the tables from 2007 and saying, well, 8-18, 8-18, 8-18. I just don't see it happening. I don't think we don't have it within us to do that, but would still like us to see us salvage the series, because, man, the Reds, Giants, Cardinals, and I think even the Diamondbacks are breathing down our necks now. They're all within like 3 games, maybe even 2 games back of us. And this schedule fucking sucks coming down the stretch, man. After this Philly series, which if we get swept, it's like, where are our heads going to be at? Are we going to be in a state of like deep depression? Are we going to be able to get up for the Texas Rangers? Because the Rangers are fighting for their playoff lives, so they're going to come in to Citi Field itching to make up some ground. And then we have to turn around and host the fucking Padres, who we always struggle against, and the fucking Nats. Like even the teams that are not in the playoff hunt that you would think we'd be able to beat up on, we have struggled against. The Nationals and the Marlins are the 2 non-playoff hunt teams. It feels like we're gonna fall on our face against these guys, and it's just ugly and awful. But maybe this will serve as a wake-up call. I would put this on par if we missed the playoffs with the collapses of 2007, 2008. I wouldn't put him as high. It would be like, that would be third. It would be like in the running. I'd be like, and also remember 2025 when we had a playoff, we were leading the division, had the best record in baseball for the first 2.5 months, and then missed the playoffs. I think that will definitely be a part of the conversation in terms of like most disappointing collapses in seasons in Mets history. Because Rangers going to be tough, Padres are going to be tough, Nationals are going to be tough. I guess the silver lining, positive spin on these next 3 series is that they're all at home, but then you have to finish the season with a 3-game set in Chicago against the Cubs and a 3-game set against the Marlins in Miami. And PTSD, we're all triggered right now. We're all having flashbacks. That the season's going to come down to that final 3-game set against the Marlins in Miami. And I'm not going to say it. But we're all thinking it. You're right there with me. Yeah, I know. But it's just everything is aligning. I can see the constellation now. There's the Ursa, North Star, Big Dipper, Orion, Leo. They're all there. And right next to them is the Marlins. I can see the stars aligning for the Marlins, just raining all over our parade and spoiling everything from this season. A season that, we should be. It's been such a celebratory season. Alonso surpassing Strawberry, Wright getting his number retired. Soto's first season looking good. It's just like there's a lot that has been great for us, but man, it's insane to think that we're still in contention. It's just wild to think about, considering the long stretches of really bad baseball that we have going on. I guess I could try and pull up the postseason probabilities. Is that a probability? Right now, Baseball Reference projects us to go 8-9 down the stretch, which is about the same as the Reds, which if that's the case, we should be okay. The Giants are projected to have more wins and go 9-8, but we own the tiebreaker over them when we have more wins. So 90% confidence Baseball Reference has in us. Our best case scenario is going 88 and 74, in which case we would still get that last wild card spot by like 2 games. And then the worst case scenario is that we go 500, 81 and 81, in which case if I would think at 81 and 81, we're not making the playoffs. We still have this is before the loss tonight, but they had us down for a 73% chance of making the postseason, 32% chance of making the divisional series, 12% chance of making the championship series. Past 30 days, we're up 12.5%, but over the last 7 days, we're down 7.5%. So, oh my God, this is gonna be excruciating, you guys. Fuck. Ugh. It's like we have the same record as 2024 at this point, but it's like everything is flipped on its head. As good as we felt last year coming down the stretch is how bad we feel coming down the stretch this year. The postseason is a whole new season. I mean, that's been proven time and time again over the past how many postseasons where it's like the number 1 seed goes down more times than not. You have teams that are like wild cards making the LCS. Based on these numbers, the Brewers are going to run away with it and win the World Series. And it's like that NL West race is going to be super interesting. Right now I think the Dodgers are leading by 1 over the Padres and the fucking Giants, man. And the Diamondbacks, like they're not completely out of it either. Amazing. The Rockies have a shot. No, the Rockies don't have a shot. All right. Coming up next, still have to recap June, July, August. On a personal level, we've got Superman movie review. Still trying to work on that. Trying to work on the movie review for Fantastic Four. First steps. Next Mets episode, like I said, will come once that final game is over at the end of September, I would think. And it will either be a preview of the wild card series or a recap of the year. I wish we could just figure it out. I mean, Mania tonight was just blech, getting smoked and rocked. Ranger Suarez was just like on point. Lights out. Fucking Harrison Bader, just like a Mets killer. Super fantastic. But part of me is like, you know what? Let the Phillies think they've got something going, and then let them get into the postseason and have a rude awakening, courtesy of the New York Metros. So, as it stands now, let me see if I can look at this. I believe we would face the Dodgers. Oh my God, in the wild card series, because Brewers are the top seed, Phillies are the next highest seed, and then you have the Dodgers at 3 as the West winner as it stands right now. Now that could change. The Padres could win the West, and then we have to face the friggin' Padres. Who would you rather face, the Dodgers or the Padres in that first round? I mean, the Dodgers like to flirt with no hitters, but never commit to a no hitter, and then eventually lose. So yeah, I don't think the Cubs are going to catch up to the Brewers pending like a monumental collapse. I mean, it's been done before. So we're not going to face the Cubs in the opening round. We're either going to face the Dodgers or the Padres. Who would you rather face, Dodgers or Padres? Either of those teams, it's like we're just chomping at the bit to get some revenge. It feels like the Dodgers, I don't know. I thought the Dodgers were susceptible last season. I thought we could get to them and go to a Game 7 and win, because I thought that they pitched like 2 bullpen games against us. What the fuck, in a postseason game? I think I would rather face the Padres, but looks like it's the Dodgers as of right now. But that's the episode. I'll throw out an LGM. I'll throw out an LFGM. It's not looking great, but it's always darkest before the dawn, right? So, I'll catch you on the flip. Adios, muchachos.